I was born into a world that saw me as broken. The others in my pack pitied me, or worse, mocked me. An omega already meant for silence and obedience, and blind on top of it? To them, I was nothing more than a burden to feed, a mouth without worth. But I had learned to survive. When eyes could not guide me, my other senses sharpened. I knew the difference between pine and cedar from the brush of needles against my fingertips. I could hear the shift in a wolf's breathing before they lunged, feel the way the ground trembled under a hunter's step. I moved through the world by instinct, by scent, by sound, by the way the air itself bent around bodies unseen. It wasn't enough to make me equal, not in their eyes, but it was enough to keep me alive. Until that night, the forest was colder than usual, a cruel wind slicing through the trees. I had wandered farther than I should have, following the faint scent of berries along a trail I hadn't walked before. My fingers brushed bark, my bare feet scuffed against roots, every nerve attuned to the rhythm of the woods. And then the rhythm broke. A branch snapped not by storm or falling limb, but under the weight of something moving. The growl that followed rattled through my bones, low and hungry. Rogues. I froze, my heart slamming against my ribs. Their scent hit me rank, bitter, twisted with the madness of wolves who'd long abandoned pack laws. I could feel them circling, their paws crushing leaves, their hunger thick in the air. An omega, one rasped, his voice broken with years of feral snarling. Easy prey. The others laughed, a sound sharp enough to slice my skin. I stumbled back, clutching the nearest tree, my breath shallow. My wolf inside me whimpered, useless, small, blind. Run, little mouse. Another taunted. Let's see how far you get before we bring you down. I didn't run. I bolted. Branches whipped against my face. Roots tore at my ankles. I couldn't see the path, but I knew the forest's heartbeat, and right now it was screaming in chaos. My ears caught every sound, their panting, the thunder of paws behind me, the snapping jaws closing in. I was fast, but they were faster. One lunged, claws scraping my shoulder as I stumbled forward. Pain. Seared hot and sharp, the copper tang of blood filling the air. My knees hit earth, and for one terrible moment, I knew this was the end. And then the world split open with a roar. It wasn't theirs. It was deeper, darker, powerful enough to shake the trees themselves. The rogues yelped, scattering as another wolf crashed into the clearing. I couldn't see him, but I felt him every muscle in the air vibrating with raw dominance. The ground quaked under his weight as he struck, teeth tearing, bones snapping. The rogues screamed and fled, their stench trailing away into the night. Silence followed, broken only by my ragged breaths. And then, him. I could feel him before I heard him, his presence like fire and safety all at once. The air changed around him, warm against my trembling skin. He moved closer, his steps deliberate, heavy with the weight of a predator who chose restraint instead of killing. I dared to lift my face toward the sound, though my eyes saw nothing. What they couldn't give me, my other senses did. His scent struck me, pine forests after rain, cold steel, the edge of a storm, strong, untamed, kingly, though I had no words for it then. I reached out a shaking hand, uncertain, and met fur beneath my fingertips. Thick, coarse, alive with power. He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. Instead, he stood still, letting me trace the line of his muzzle, the curve of his jaw, the wild heat that radiated from him. My body should have screamed danger. Instead, my wolf quieted for the first time in years, curling in submission not from fear but from recognition. "Who are you?" I whispered, though I knew he would not answer. My voice shook, breaking against the night. He pressed his massive head lightly into my palm, a gesture so gentle it undid me. A wolf like this could have destroyed me as easily as the rogues. Instead, he had chosen to protect me. Tears stung my useless eyes as I clung to him, trembling. I couldn't see his face, but I felt him in every part of me. His dominance, his warmth, his refusal to leave. And though I didn't yet understand why, I knew one truth as surely as if my wolf had spoken it aloud. This was no ordinary wolf. By morning, he was gone, leaving only the memory of his scent, pine, steel, storms, and the echo of safety I'd never known. I didn't yet realize that the wolf who had saved me was no stranger at all. He was the Alpha King. I should have been afraid to touch him. Every instinct in me screamed that wolves were dangerous, especially one this large, this powerful. But my hand moved as if it belonged more to my wolf than to me, trembling fingers sinking into his fur. It was thick, coarse near the surface but soft beneath, heat radiating from him, as if his body were a living flame in the winter night. My palm rested there, and in that single touch, I memorized him. Not by sight, my eyes were useless, but by everything else. His scent was the first thing etched into me. Pine after rain, the sharpness of steel, the electricity of an oncoming storm. A scent that shouldn't exist in the wild alone, so heavy with dominance it pressed against my lungs, demanding to be remembered. My hand slid along his neck, and he let me. Any other wolf would have snarled or snapped, but he held perfectly still, as if he knew I needed this moment, needed to learn him in the only way I could. "You're not like the others," I whispered. My voice cracked, but he didn't flinch. "You didn't kill me when you could have. You saved me." I could feel the steady rise and fall of his breath beneath my hand, the rumble of life thrumming through him. He was no ordinary wolf. Even my blind eyes knew that truth. And still, he lingered. Most wolves, once the fight was done, would have left. They would not have wasted time on a blind Omega, especially not one the pack considered broken. Powers. But he stayed, his presence burning in the air around me, watching with an intensity I could feel but not see. My wolf whimpered softly inside me, not in fear, but in recognition. I sat there for what felt like hours, my fingers buried in his fur, listening to the silence of the forest broken only by his steady breathing. Slowly my panic bled away. Slowly the trembling in my body stilled. When at last I whispered, "Will I see you again?" The only answer was a low chuff of breath and the faint press of his muzzle against my shoulder. And then he was gone. I reached blindly into the empty night, my hand catching nothing but air. The warmth faded, leaving me with only the echo of his scent pine steel. Storms burned so deep into memory that I knew I could never forget it. By morning, I was back in the village, though I hardly remembered the walk. My shoulders still throbbed from the rogue's claws, but it was not pain that consumed me. It was him. His scent lingered in my hair, my clothes, clinging to me like smoke from a fire. Every time I inhaled, it was their safety, strength, and something I couldn't name. But the village was already buzzing with other news. "The Alpha King," someone whispered as I passed, buckets clattering against stone. I tilted my head, listening. "He's near the border," a woman's voice carried. "Came with his guard at dawn. They say he's inspecting the villages." "He'll never come here," another scoffed. "Why waste time on a place like this?" Their voices blurred as I walked, but the words dug deep. The Alpha King. I had heard the tales whispered since childhood, the ruler of the northern territories, feared and revered in equal measure. His wolf was said to be unmatched, his eyes silver like the moon itself. I had never seen him, and likely never would. He belonged to a world far from mine, Palaces, councils, warbands. I was just the blind Omega they left to scrub floors and stumble in shadows. But as I sat outside my hut that evening, I felt the wind shift. Pine, steel, storms. My breath caught. It couldn't be, and yet I knew that scent. My fingers twitched, remembering fur beneath them, heat against my palm. My wolf stirred, restless, pressing against me as if to whisper a truth I could not yet speak aloud. I had been saved by a wolf in the forest. And now, as whispers of the Alpha King spread through the village like fire, I realized with a shiver that the scent of my savior and the scent of my king were the same. I didn't yet understand what it meant, but I knew my life would never be the same again. The entire village stirred like a hive struck with a stick. Word had come at dawn. The Alpha King himself was passing through with his royal guard. No one worked. No one dared to. Instead, they crowded the dirt road at the edge of the square, whispering about what it meant. Some said he came to recruit warriors. Others feared it was punishment for late tribute. I stood at the back of the crowd, my hand resting against the worn wood of a hut for balance. Though I couldn't see, I could feel the tension in the air, the prickle of anticipation, the shallow, nervous breathing of my neighbors, the shifting of feet on packed earth. My wolf stirred uneasily beneath my skin, a low thrum that made my pulse quicken. And then I smelled him. Pine, steel, storms. The scent slammed into me with the force of memory, the wolf in the forest, the savior whose fur I had touched, whose breath I had felt against my shoulder. I had wondered if I'd imagined him, some fever dream born of terror. But there was no mistaking it now. My savior was here, and he was the Alpha King. The villagers gasped as hooves struck the ground in rhythm. I could hear the creak of leather, the jingle of bridles, the measured pace of soldiers trained to intimidate with silence. The presence of so many alphas pressed heavy on my chest, but beneath it all was him, his dominance like a storm about to break. The procession halted. I could hear the scrape of boots hitting earth as he dismounted. "Your Majesty," the elder croaked, voice trembling. "We are honored." I didn't need sight to know every villager was bowing low, foreheads nearly in the dirt. I stayed upright, though my heart hammered in my chest. Not out of defiance, I simply couldn't bring myself to kneel before the wolf who had saved me, whose presence still burned through my veins. He was close now. I could feel it in the air, hear the measured strength of his footsteps drawing nearer. My wolf pushed hard against me, a soft whimper escaping my throat before I could stop it. And then he stopped directly in front of me. The world went silent. My lungs refused to work. He was close enough that his scent wrapped around me fully, dizzying, overwhelming. I whispered without thinking. "It's you," I asked her. For a long moment, he said nothing. My blind eyes lifted toward him, useless, but desperate all the same. I couldn't see his face, but I felt the weight of his gaze sharp, heavy, cutting straight through me. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower than thunder, deeper than any dream. Not a question, a statement. I nodded, my hands trembling at my sides. "The forest. You saved me." The crowd erupted, with confused whispers. Saved her? The king? But their voices faded for me, unimportant. "You remember," he said softly, almost to himself. I heard the shift of his cloak, the catch of leather. For a heartbeat, I thought he might touch me. My hand twitched, ready for it, craving it. But instead, he stepped back, avoiding me, avoiding my sightless eyes. It was a strange thing to notice. Most people looked straight through me, dismissing me as though I were nothing. But him, he refused to look at me at all. Commander, his tone sharpened, the warmth vanishing as quickly as it had come. Inspect the village stores. See if their tribute is accounted for. The air cracked as soldiers obeyed, boots striking hard against stone. The king's voice rolled over the villagers, commanding and unyielding. Yet, with me, he had said only a handful of words. I stood frozen, my heart caught between gratitude and confusion. Why did he save me only to turn cold now? Why avoid the truth that bound us together, that my wolf had recognized him the moment his scent filled my lungs? But he gave me no answers. Only the sound of his steps retreating, heavy and deliberate, leaving me surrounded by whispers. Did you hear what she said? The king saved her. Impossible. Why would he save a blind Omega? She's lying, seeking attention. Their words cut, sharp as claws, but not half as deep as the silence he left behind. I tilted my face upward, my useless eyes burning. I couldn't see him, but I could feel him still like fire smoldering at the edges of my world. And though he had turned away, I whispered to myself the truth I already knew. The Alpha King was my savior. And no matter how hard he tried to hide it, he knew it too. The village square became a stage for cruelty. It always did when the noble-born Omegas gathered, their silks rustling, their laughter sharp as broken glass. I was used to it. The whispers that I was cursed, that blindness meant weakness, that my wolf was as useless as I was, protections. But today, the cruelty felt sharper. Because today, the Alpha King stood among us. I had been ordered to serve wine during the inspection, a task that meant balancing the weight of a pitcher in trembling hands and listening carefully for voices to place each goblet correctly. I moved carefully, guided by sound and scent. But silence fell as I approached a group of noble Omegas, their perfume cloying, their voices dripping with disdain. She can't even see where she walks, one hissed, loud enough for all to hear. Imagine a blind mate. She wouldn't even know whose bed she stumbled into, another sneered. Laughter followed, cruel and cutting. My hand tightened around the pitcher's handle until my knuckles ached. I forced myself to steady, to keep moving. If I reacted, they would only laugh harder. That was how it had always been. Worthless, one of them whispered, her voice sweet with venom. Even rogues wouldn't take her. She couldn't catch a wolf if it starved. The words hit harder than claws. I stood frozen, the weight of silence pressing against me. My wolf stirred, restless beneath my skin, but I pressed it down. What good would a protest do? I was blind. I was weak. I was nothing to them. Except the king was here. And though I could not see, I felt the weight of his gaze. Heavy, burning. It seared my skin like sunlight through storm clouds. The nobles tittered on, emboldened by my silence. One brushed past me deliberately, knocking the goblet from my hand. It shattered at my feet, wine splattering across the dirt. Oh, what a clumsy little servant, she cooed. Careful. Or perhaps you'll trip and crack your skull. Wouldn't that be a mercy? Their laughter swelled. And still I stayed silent. My dignity was the only shield I had left. Then, the air shifted. It was subtle at first, the kind of stillness that makes birds fall silent, that makes the wind itself hold its breath. The king had moved. I didn't hear his boots, but I felt his presence closer now, a wall of storm and steel pressing against the circle of mockery. The laughter faltered. Enough, his voice rolled out, low and deadly, more command than sound. Silence. Pure, trembling silence. My lord, we were only one Omega, stammered, mocking a blind woman in my presence. He finished for her, his tone razor-sharp. Tell me what honor lies in cruelty. What worth is in a wolf who preys on the weak? I dared to lift my face toward his voice, though my sightless eyes found only darkness. Still, I could feel him standing between me and them like a wall of fury, barely restrained. My king. Another tried, her voice faltering. We meant no disrespect. Then why do I hear it in every word you speak? His dominance pressed outward, thick as smoke, making the air vibrate. I heard the nobles' sharp breaths, the sound of their bodies shifting back, trying to escape the force of his presence. You dare call her worthless, the king continued. Quieter now, more dangerous for it. Yet she survived rogues in the forest alone. She endured what none of you could. If worth is proven by survival, then she has more than any of you. My chest constricted, torn between gratitude and fear. Why defend me? Why expose me further when all I wanted was to disappear into the shadows? His voice lowered, so soft I almost thought it was for me alone. And she is not unfit for a mate. The words struck like lightning. My breath caught, the crowd gasped, and the noble-born Omegas fell utterly silent. No one dared speak after that. No one dared laugh. I stood trembling, clutching the empty pitcher, every part of me aware of him, his voice, his nearness, the storm he had unleashed on my behalf. He had seen me mocked, and instead of turning away, as so many had before, he had burned for me. Burned with a fury that felt like protection. Burned with a restraint that felt like something more. The village had never been so alive. Torches burned along the square, flames crackling as shadows danced on the huts. Music rose from pipes and drums, though it felt stiff, performed more out of duty than joy. The Alpha King had chosen to remain another night in our humble village, and so the elders insisted on a gathering to honor him. I stood at the edges, as I always did, near the old well where fewer voices gathered. My hands traced the weathered stone, grounding me as the sounds of laughter and gossip swirled around me. Even blind, I could feel the stares sharp, cutting, heavy with scorn. The blind Omega lingers again, someone whispered. She should be grateful she's allowed to serve here at all, another muttered. I tilted my chin higher, pretending not to hear. But every word carved deeper, reopening wounds I had learned to carry in silence. Then the crowd shifted. I didn't need sight to know why the Alpha King had entered the square. His presence was undeniable, like a storm walking on two legs. The air thickened, the conversations faltered, the music slowed. My wolf stirred instantly, a quiver of recognition that set my blood alight. I held still, praying he would pass me by, but his steps didn't fade into the distance. They drew nearer, deliberate, heavy, toward me. My breath caught, my fingers clenched against the well. Surely not. Surely he wouldn't. He stopped in front of me. The crowd gasped softly. Even without eyes, I could feel the weight of hundreds of gazes burning into my back. Omega. His voice rumbled, low and steady, yet carrying to every ear in the square. Come forward. My heart thundered, my knees trembled. I wanted to sink into the ground, to vanish, but something pulled me forward, my wolf answering his call. I stepped into the open, blind eyes staring uselessly into darkness, every nerve strung tight. He didn't wait for silence. It had already fallen, thick and suffocating. My people, the king said, his tone heavy with command. You whisper that this Omega is cursed, that she is worthless, that she does not belong. The air shifted, thick with tension. I could almost feel the smirks of those who had mocked me, ready to nod and agree. But my wolf knows truth where your eyes see only lies, he continued. And my wolf has chosen. The ground tilted beneath me. My stomach lurched. No, he wouldn't. He couldn't. She is mine. The square erupted in chaos. The blind Omega? Impossible. He's jesting, surely. Has the king gone mad? Their voices crashed over me like waves. Disbelief, anger, and confusion swirling together. I swayed on my feet, my ears ringing. He stepped closer, his scent enveloping me pine, steel, storms. My wolf recognized her as mate the night of the rogues. He has not wavered since. His hand brushed mine light, fleeting, but enough to ground me when the world spun wildly out of control. Mate. The word lodged in my chest like fire and ice all at once. My wolf howled inside me, fierce and undeniable, as though it had only been waiting for him to speak the truth aloud. Your Majesty, one elder's voice cracked with outrage. Tradition forbids it. A queen must be whole, sighted, strong. And yet my wolf has spoken, he thundered back, his dominance slamming into the square like a wall of force. Who here dares claim they know better than the bond of wolves? Silence. Utter silence. No one moved. No one dared. I stood trembling, unable to lift my face to him. My chest ached with too many emotions: fear, awe, disbelief, and something far more dangerous: hope. Why me? Why a blind Omega cast aside by her own pack? Why, when there were noble-born Omegas, beautiful and sighted, standing in the torchlight with perfect smiles? But he had said it. He had declared it before all. The Alpha King had chosen me, his mate. And though part of me longed to run, another part, the part that had touched his fur, that had smelled his storm scent in the dark forest, rose up inside me with a strength I didn't know I had. The whispers of the crowd continued, frantic and disbelieving. But his words had already shattered tradition, canine. And nothing, not even their fury, could unmake what had just been spoken. I belonged to the Alpha King. And whether I was ready or not, my destiny had just been sealed. The great hall of the council felt like a furnace of hatred. Even blind, I could sense every sneer, every flinch, every sharp inhale as I stood beside the Alpha King. The echo of boots on marble, the hiss of whispered insults, the stink of old perfume layered over fear, all of it crowded into my heightened senses until it felt like 1,000 claws dragging over my skin. I hadn't wanted to be here. I hadn't wanted any of this. But after his public declaration, the elders had demanded an audience, their fury too great to be contained to hushed corners and whispered threats. And so here I was, a blind Omega standing before a semicircle of powerful wolves who wanted me gone. She does not belong at your side, one elder snarled. His voice carried the brittle authority of someone who had never been defied. Quote, "This creature is unfit. It is an insult to the throne." An insult, another agreed. To your bloodline, to our laws, to the goddess herself. Their words struck like arrows, but I kept my chin lifted, my hands clasped tight at my waist to keep them from trembling. My wolf shivered beneath my skin, but I locked it down. I had survived worse than words. Still, part of me wanted to scream. I had not asked for this crown he had placed above me with a single sentence. I had been content in shadows, unseen and unheard, surviving on scraps of dignity. Now, every eye burned into me like a brand. I do not want this, I said quietly, but the hall carried my voice farther than I intended. I never sought your throne. I never asked to be queen. Gasps rose, like I had blasphemed, my hands fisted tighter. If this is some cruel test, some spectacle to humiliate me, then release me. Let me return to my life. My words should have pleased them. Instead, the air grew more dangerous, filled with the scent of wolves circling prey. She admits it herself, one elder hissed. She does not want the bond. Reject her now before she poisons our king. The word poison made my stomach clench. They didn't mean literal poison, but I could smell the desire behind their words, the lust for my removal, the wish for my blood on the stones. I opened my mouth again, but the king moved before I could speak. One heartbeat he was still. The next he was a wall of power at my side. His hand found mine firm, grounding, and the entire hall seemed to shrink under his presence. Enough. The single word rolled through the chamber like thunder. Her blindness does not make her weak, he said, his voice low but lethal. It makes her mine. The dominance in his tone cracked through the hall, and I felt it physically, like a wave pressing against my skin. Several elders instinctively lowered their heads. Others bared their teeth but said nothing. She carries no noble blood. One of the bolder counselors tried again, but his voice faltered. She is not worthy. I decide worth, the king interrupted, stepping forward, his scent shifting from pine and storms to something darker, more primal. Not you, not the council, not tradition, me. Me. The hall went silent. Even my own breath caught. I turned my face toward him, blind eyes useless, but knowing exactly where he stood. His thumb brushed across my knuckles in a silent reassurance, though his voice was iron. You call her unfit because she cannot see. He continued, yet she has seen more truth in this pack than any of you. She has survived where others would have perished. Her wolf answered mine before I even knew her name. A ripple of murmurs ran through the chamber. I felt the weight of his words in my chest, like a brand and a shield all at once. I will not reject her, he said simply. And if any of you think to remove her yourselves, he let the threat hang, heavy and unmistakable. Try. You'll discover just how weak you truly are. I swallowed hard. My heart thundered. I had spoken my fear aloud, and instead of discarding me, he had staked his claim even deeper. Part of me burned with humiliation, part of me trembled with relief, and somewhere deep within, my wolf lifted its head and exhaled like it had been waiting for this. I whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, Why? Why hold me here when even I want to run? Power. His answer was a quiet growl against my ear, intimate and absolute. Because fate does not always give us what we want, sometimes it gives us what we need. And the hall was still as stone. No one dared speak again. He released my hand, only to place it against his arm, guiding me from the council chamber like I was something precious. The murmurs rose behind us like a tide, but never touched me. I had come here a servant. I left on the Alpha King's arm, still blind, still terrified, but with the echo of his words ringing in my chest. Her blindness does not make her weak. It makes her mine. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if that frightened me or saved me. The king's chambers were too large, too silent. My footsteps echoed on marble as though the emptiness itself mocked me. He had dismissed his guards the moment we entered, shutting the door with a finality that made my stomach twist. I had been bracing for anger for his fury at my words in the council hall, for my open protest. Instead, he guided me to a chair near the fire, his hand steady at my back, his scent steady as storm and pine. Sit, he commanded, though his voice lacked its usual edge. I obeyed, folding my hands tightly in my lap, the flicker of flames warming my face. For a long moment, he said nothing. I could hear him pacing the soft leather of boots, the swish of his cloak, the quiet frustration in every line of his body. At last, I broke the silence. You shouldn't have defended me. He stopped moving. Shouldn't have. They're right, I whispered. My throat felt tight. I'm blind. I'll never rule like they want. I'll never fight like they expect. You humiliate yourself by keeping me at your side. The room went very still. I braced for his anger. Instead, I felt his presence closer, heavier, until his hand was beneath my chin, tilting my face toward his. Do you think I don't know weakness when I see it? His voice was quiet, lethal. You are not weak, they are blind. A bitter laugh escaped me. Blind? That's my curse, not theirs. No. His thumb brushed against my cheekbone, softer than I expected. Your blindness is not a curse. It is what makes you stronger than them. Something in me cracked at those words, and before I could stop myself, the truth slipped out. I do see, just not the way they do. I felt him lean closer, every line of him taut with focus. Explain. I swallowed, forcing the words out. When I was a child, after my sight was gone, I thought the world was over. But then, I began to notice things. A shift in air when someone lied, the weight of intention in footsteps. I feel their anger before they speak it, their fear before it shows in their eyes. Sometimes, my hands trembled. Sometimes I see light around people, faint colors, moving like fire. I know when someone is true. I know when they want to hurt me. For a long time, he said nothing. I couldn't bear the silence. You think I'm mad, don't you? No. The word was sharp, certain. I think you're rare. I lifted my chin, my useless eyes staring toward his voice. That's why they hate me. They sense I'm different. They'll never accept me. Perhaps not. He exhaled, a low rumble like thunder building beneath mountains. But they will learn to fear you, and they will learn to bow. I wanted to argue, to tell him I had no wish for their fear, no desire for their throne. But something else pressed against my heart, a question that had burned since the forest. It was you, wasn't it? I whispered. He didn't pretend to misunderstand. That night, in the forest, the wolf who fought them off, it was you. The silence stretched, heavy, until at last he said, yes. My breath hitched. Why? You could have left me there. You should have. I was no one. You were mine. Effe, mistartness. The words struck harder than any blow. I couldn't leave you, he continued, softer now, almost reluctant. Not when my wolf had already chosen. I fought them because the thought of losing you before I even knew your voice was unbearable. I pressed trembling fingers to my mouth. His honesty was a storm crashing into me, frightening and undeniable. You were watching me even then? I asked. Not watching, guarding. I remembered the way his wolf had felt, fire and safety, power and gentleness all at once. I had not been wrong. Your blindness, he murmured, his breath ghosting over my cheek, lets you see truths the rest of us ignore. You saw me that night, even without eyes. You recognized me here, even with the weight of my crown. And I tell you now, those gifts will keep you alive when others would fall. His words wrapped around me like armor, terrifying and steadying at once. For the first time, I let myself lean into his warmth, just slightly. Then why am I so afraid? I whispered. Because you're still human, he answered. But your wolf will show you there is nothing to fear, not with me. And when his hand closed over mine, rough and scarred yet impossibly careful, I believed him, if only for a moment. The banquet hall shimmered with gold and firelight, every corner echoing with laughter that didn't reach the eyes. I sat beside the Alpha King, my hands folded neatly in my lap, trying to steady the tremor in my fingers. The council had insisted on this feast to celebrate the season's harvest, but I knew better. Their smiles tasted of venom long before I lifted a cup to my lips. I could smell it perfume, heavy as rot, sweat slick with anticipation, hearts beating just a shade too fast when my name was announced. My wolf prowled uneasily inside me, restless, growling against a danger I could not yet name. Plates were laid before us, rich with roasted meats and delicate sauces. Wine poured into silver goblets that gleamed under the chandeliers. To anyone else, it would look like abundance. To me, it reeked of malice. When the server set a chalice before me, the scent hit like a blade, bitter, sharp, acrid beneath the sweetness of wine. My stomach turned instantly. Poison. I didn't touch it. I didn't even need to. My wolf surged up in warning, my heightened senses drawing out the truth like threads in a tapestry. The taint was not in the king's goblet, not in the feast itself. It was in mine alone. The council wanted their cursed queen gone. I rose slowly, every eye turning toward me. "Would you like to toast me now?" I asked softly, my fingers curling around the goblet but not lifting it. Confusion flickered through the hall. The king shifted beside me, tense. I let the silence drag before tilting the goblet, pouring its contents slowly across the white linen tablecloth. The wine hissed as it struck, eating into the fabric, staining it black. Gasps erupted. "Poison," I said simply. My voice carried, calm but cutting. The crowd rippled like a storm breaking. Wolves surged to their feet, snarling accusations, some crying out in denial. My own hands trembled, but I lifted my chin, blind eyes sweeping the room though I could not see their faces. My wolf could feel them, their panic, their guilt. "There," I said, pointing without hesitation. "The stench of fear clings to your skin." A noble's chair scraped back, his heartbeat galloping as he tried to melt into the crowd. "Guards!" the king barked. His voice was a whip crack. "Seize him!" Chaos erupted. Another noble shouted, "She lies! The blind Omega cannot know." But my wolf already knew. I stepped forward, my hand outstretched, breathing deep. "You, too," I whispered, turning my face toward the corner where another sat, stiff and silent. "You ground herbs yourself, bitterroot and serpent's bane. The smell of it is on your nails." The hall stilled. A gasp tore from the accused, and in that sound was admission, powers then. The king's dominance rolled out like a storm, shaking the very walls. "Treason," he snarled, "punishable by death." He snarled and he peehed with Han. Guards dragged the conspirators forward as the hall descended into chaos, nobles crying out, servants shrinking back in terror. My wolf pushed against my ribs, sharp and fierce, demanding I not shrink from this moment. And yet, even as the guilty were dragged away, the whispers began, low at first, then rising, like the hiss of 1,000 serpents. "Cursed. Unnatural. She smelled it before anyone else. She is not one of us. She should not sit at his side." Their words, sliced deeper than poison ever could. I had revealed truth, saved myself from death, and yet they twisted it into a mark of corruption. The king slammed his fist against the table, silencing them, but not erasing the echo. His voice was a growl. "She will not be touched. She is mine. And any who conspire against her conspire against the throne." But even his dominance could not stop the whispers from seeping into the cracks of the hall. I stood there, my wolf still pacing, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might give me away. I had survived the poison, unmasked my enemies. And yet, the victory tasted of ash. Because for every conspirator revealed, 3 more shadows lingered. And for every wolf who bowed, another muttered that the throne was cursed by a blind queen. When the feast was finally dismissed, I felt the king's hand at my back, steadying me, guiding me away from the hall of venom and whispers. His touch was warm, grounding. "You saved yourself tonight," he murmured. "You saved us both." I nodded, though my throat ached with unshed tears. "And yet they call me cursed." "Let them," he growled. "Fear is better than indifference." But as his words settled between us, I wondered which would kill me faster, their poison or their whispers. The citadel's walls were too quiet that night, too still. Even the torches seemed to burn softer, their flames whispering instead of crackling. I sat on the edge of the bed, my palms pressed hard into the blankets, my breath uneven. Every sound scraped against my senses, the shuffle of boots far down the corridor, the restless murmur of guards, the beat of my own pulse, thrumming too loud in my ears. My wolf had been pacing all evening, restless in ways I couldn't understand. "Breathe," the king said gently from the doorway. His tone was softer than I'd ever heard it, but even his voice couldn't slow the storm inside me. "I can't." My throat closed tight around the words. "Something's wrong. I feel like I'm burning." In an instant, he was beside me, his hand strong at my back. His scent, pine, smoke, and storms wrapped around me like a shield. But even that couldn't contain the surge ripping through me. My hands curled into claws against the bedding. When I pulled them back, I gasped. My nails weren't nails anymore. They were sharper, harder, the tips blackened like iron. My breath shattered. No, no, this isn't possible. My body convulsed, a growl tearing out of my chest, so raw and feral I barely recognized it as my own. My vision didn't change, still darkness, but something else sharpened. I could feel the air shifting, the faintest brush of movement against my skin, the way his heartbeat thundered steady beside me. I could smell the world like it was alive, fear, warmth, steel, and him, always him. "I'm shifting." I choked. I don't know how." "You're not broken." His voice cut through the panic like a blade. His hands caught my shoulders, anchoring me. "Listen to me. Your wolf is not broken. She is awakening." The words hit something deep inside me, something that howled and clawed and rejoiced. But I was terrified. My body wasn't my own anymore. My skin rippled, muscles spasmed, my jaw ached with teeth that wanted to lengthen. I lashed out blindly, my claws screeching against stone as they raked the wall. Fragments of rock tumbled to the floor. I'd scarred stone. I recoiled, trembling, hands shaking as the claws retracted with sharp pain. My knees buckled, and before I could collapse, he caught me against his chest. "Don't look at me," I whispered, shamed tears burning my useless eyes. "Don't look at what I've become." He pulled me tighter, his breath hot at my temple. "I see you. Do you hear me? I see you. Not weakness, not shame, strength." I clung to him like a drowning thing. His heartbeat was steady, a drum pulling me back from the edge of madness. The fire inside me slowed, simmered, though my wolf still prowled beneath my skin, restless but no longer frantic. "Why now?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why would she awaken now, after all these years of silence?" "Because you've stopped hiding," he murmured. His thumb stroked the line of my jaw, grounding me as the tremors eased. "Because your wolf finally trusts you to let her out. She was never gone, only waiting." I shook my head. "I can't control her. I nearly tore the walls apart. What happens if I hurt someone? What happens if I hurt you?" His laugh was low, dark, dangerous. "You won't hurt me. You couldn't. My wolf knows yours. She is fierce, yes, but she is mine." Those words ignited something inside me. Not dominance, not command certainty, a tether that bound us, one I hadn't wanted but could no longer deny. I drew a ragged breath, pressing my forehead against his chest. It felt like she wanted to take me, like she wanted to show me a world I'll never see. And she will, he promised. You will feel the world through her, sharper and truer than sight. You'll learn to hunt, to fight, to rule. Not as a blind queen, as a wolf queen. Wolf queen. The words made me tremble, half in fear, half in awe. I whispered, "What if I can't become her?" His hand tilted my chin again, forcing my blind gaze upward. His voice was iron and storm. "Then we'll awaken her together. You are not alone in this. Not now, not ever." The trembling eased at last. My claws were gone, my breathing steadier, but my wolf still stirred inside me, a restless flame. She wasn't finished. And neither was I. The first sound I noticed was not steel or snarls, but drums. Deep, rolling drums that shook the stones of the citadel beneath my feet. I stood on the balcony outside the council hall, the night air sharp against my skin, my hands clenched at the rail. Even blind, I could feel the weight of what approached an army moving as one, a storm aimed at our walls, behind me. Voices clashed in panic. "They've breached the valley. The banners, those, are Blackthorn Alphas. How many? Hundreds. Hundreds." And then, the sharp, mocking laugh of the one who had orchestrated it all. Lady Alira. The noble-born Omega, who had once been groomed since childhood for the crown, now turned viper. Her voice cut through the chaos, dripping with venom. "This is what comes of crowning a blind Omega. A throne made a mockery, a kingdom made weak, but I will see it restored." The words rippled like poison through the room. I turned my head toward her voice, though I did not need sight to know the satisfaction glittering in her eyes. My wolf growled low, pacing within me. The king entered then, the air shifting with the weight of his presence. His scent storm and iron rolled out like a warning, silencing the room in an instant. "Elira." His voice was a blade unsheathed. "You dare to ally with Blackthorn traitors? You dare bring war to my gates?" She didn't flinch. "I dare because you've doomed us. She is no queen, she is a curse. The blind Omega must die before her wolf fully awakens. Even your enemies see it." The words struck the chamber like thunder. My stomach clenched. I had always known whispers trailed me, but to hear them spoken aloud by both counsel and foe, it was something else entirely. "You'll never win," the king said, his dominance shaking the walls. "Not while I stand. Then you'll fall beside her." Her laughter echoed cruelly. "Koskim, the Blackthorn Alphas will tear this place apart stone by stone until the people themselves beg for her blood." They chanted even now, and I could hear it, faint, but growing, from beyond the walls, a chorus of voices fueled by hatred. "The blind Omega must die." My hands curled so tight my nails broke skin. The copper tang of blood filled my mouth where I bit my lip to keep from crying out. I had been mocked before, scorned, dismissed, but never had the cry for my death risen in such unison. The king's hand found mine, strong, grounding, pulling me back from the brink. "Do not listen," he said low, "for me alone. They fear you because they know what you are becoming. They smell it on you. Power." I wanted to believe him, but beneath the pounding drums, beneath the rising chants, I could taste their hunger. They didn't just fear me. They wanted me destroyed before I could rise. "We prepare for war," the king declared, his voice rolling over the council like thunder. "Arm the gates. Lock the wings. Anyone who raises a hand against my queen will meet the teeth of my wolf." The council scattered into motion, though I could hear the hesitation in their steps, smell the doubt leaking from their pores. They didn't all believe in me. Not yet. When the chamber was nearly empty, Elira's voice cut through one last time, colder than the night. "You'll regret choosing her, Lysander. She will bring ruin." He stepped toward her, his dominance flaring so sharp that the torches guttered. "Leave my sight, or I'll let my queen's wolf decide your fate instead of mine." Elira hissed, but her footsteps retreated. I stood there trembling, his hand still holding mine. "They won't stop," I whispered. "Not until I'm dead." "No." His thumb brushed my knuckles. "Steady, sure. Not until you show them why you're alive." My wolf stirred then, restless beneath my skin, teeth pressing against the edges of my control. The siege drums still thundered outside, but another rhythm beat beneath them, the sound of my wolf waking, ready, hungry for the fight they all thought I could never face. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe the thing they feared wasn't my blindness at all. Maybe it was the moment my wolf opened her eyes. The battlefield was chaos. I couldn't see the banners snapping above or the blades flashing in torchlight, but I felt it, all the clash of steel, ringing like thunder through my bones. The roar of wolves shifting, the copper salt taste of blood on the air. The citadel walls shook with each impact, but it wasn't the stone that trembled most. It was the people. My people. Servants huddled in kitchens, Omegas locked away in corners, told they were too weak to fight. But weakness was a lie. I could smell their fear, yes. But beneath it I sensed something else. A pulse of strength, a hunger to protect, a wolf caged too long. "Come with me," I whispered, my voice carrying through the dark corridors where they waited. "They say we are less. Tonight we prove them wrong." I led them not with sight, but with the rhythm of their breathing, the shuffle of their steps, the subtle sense that painted a map in my mind. Down through hidden passages, out through the broken postern gate, we poured into the field where alphas raged. Apology. The enemy was unprepared. Who thinks to fear servants with sharpened knives, or omegas with nothing but teeth and claws? Yet when guided by instinct, by the tether of my wolf finally breaking loose, they moved as one. We struck at blind spots, at supply wagons, at the weakest flanks. I felt the tide shift beneath my skin as surely as I felt the heartbeat of the earth. And then her voice cut across the battlefield. Clear and cruel. "Elira, the king is blind with lust," she screamed, her tone sharpened by spite. "He follows a cursed queen who cannot even see the dawn. Follow me, and I will restore order." Her words rippled through both armies, sowing hesitation like a blade sliding into flesh. I turned toward her voice, my wolf snarling. She thought blindness made me powerless. She forgot that truth has a scent. "Elira," I called, my voice carrying further than it ever had. "Tell them about your alliance with the Blackthorns. Tell them whose coin bought your treachery." Gasps rose. I stepped forward, my wolf pushing through my skin, my senses igniting like fire. "I can smell the lie on you. I can taste it in the venom you spit. You would have them slaughter brothers and sisters, not for survival, but for your crown." The air shifted. Loyalty wavered. Wolves growled uncertainly. Some turned on each other, confused, betrayed. "You are no queen," I said, my voice low and steady. "You are a traitor." The king's dominance rolled across the battlefield, sealing my words with thunder. But it was my wolf who ended it. She surged up, unstoppable. No longer a whisper in the dark, but a roar. My body bent and reshaped not the half-shifts of fear, but a full awakening. I felt it in my marrow, silver fire racing through my veins, claws extending, fur bursting across my arms, light shimmering around me like dawn. I was wolf and woman both, radiant, marked by silver streaks that pulsed with power. I could not see the battlefield, but I didn't need to. Every motion painted itself in scent and sound, the swing of a blade slicing air, the rush of a wolf's paws tearing earth, the quickened breath of an enemy too close. My wolf guided me with precision, every strike instinctive, every dodge perfect. I tore through the lines, not with brute strength, but with accuracy. I did not fight blindly. I fought with sight deeper than eyes could give. And then, beside me, I felt him, my king. His wolf surged, his dominance burning like a storm, but for the first time, we moved as equals. His claws struck where mine did not. His strength filled where my speed carried us forward. Two wolves, two flames, one bond. I leapt, crashing into the heart of the enemy line, ripping through shields and snarls. And when I landed, the field was silent. Alira's voice broke then, desperate, panicked. No, she is cursed, she is. But her words carried no weight. No loyalty answered. Her betrayal was laid bare before them all, stripped by my wolf, revealed by the truth she could never mask. The enemy faltered, then scattered. Some fled into the trees. Others dropped their weapons entirely, unwilling to follow a traitor who had been unmasked by a blind Omega's wolf. No, not blind. Never again blind. I stood bloodied, silver-marked, chest heaving, the king's wolf pressing to my side. His breath was hot in my ear as he whispered, reverent and fierce, not cursed, chosen. And for the first time, I believed it. The battlefield still reeked of smoke and blood, but the citadel's great hall was filled with silence, purification. Not the uneasy silence of doubt, nor the hissing silence of whispers, but something deeper, the silence of awe. I stood in the center, the stone floor beneath me stained from warriors' boots, my body weary but unbowed. My wolf still hummed within me, silver fire simmering under my skin, but it was calm, now present, steady. She had shown them all what they feared to see, and now there was no turning back. The Alpha King's hand rested warm against mine, grounding me. His scent storms and pine had been my anchor since the night in the forest. Now it was the reminder that I was no longer alone. Before us, the nobles knelt in rows, their silks rustling as they lowered themselves, some grudgingly, some with tears. The same voices that had called me cursed and broken, now bent under the weight of truth. I had fought not only with him, but beside him, as his equal. They could not deny what they had witnessed. The king's voice broke the silence, deep and resonant. Our kingdom was nearly destroyed by treachery, by fear, by the lie that strength lies only in the body. His hand tightened around mine, lifting me forward. But tonight, you saw what true strength is. He paused, and I felt his gaze sweep the hall. Tonight, you saw your queen. Gasps rippled through the chamber, though none dared speak against him. His fingers released mine, only to lift the crown heavy, wrought of iron and silver, his dominance flaring as he held it above me. Kneeling, I bowed my head, heart pounding, not from fear but from the weight of what this meant. He placed the crown gently upon my brow, the cool metal searing hotter than fire against my skin. "Rise," he said softly, though his voice carried to every corner of the hall. I rose, the crown steady upon my head, the hall filled with the sound of wolves lowering themselves in respect. Nobles, betas, alphas alike, those who had mocked, who had scorned, now bent their knees to me. My throat tightened, but I found my voice. Blindness is not weakness. The words echoed, clear, unshaken. True sight is in spirit. I have walked in darkness, and it showed me what others could not see, the treachery festering in these halls, the lies whispered in the shadows. But it also showed me truth, that strength is not bloodline, or beauty, or power alone. Strength is endurance. It is spirit. It is unity. I drew in a breath, my wolf pressing against my skin, her silver fire making my words sharp as steel. No child will be cast aside for what they lack. No servant will be silenced because of their birth. From this day forward, worth will be proven by courage, by loyalty, by the strength of spirit. By flings, no servant. The silence after was thick, charged. And then, like the breaking of a storm, cheers rose. Howls echoed through the chamber, not of rebellion, but of recognition. Still, I heard the smallest voices, clearest, parturers, the children of the citadel, peeking from behind their mothers' skirts, their whispers threading through the air, like fragile threads of light. "That's the queen," one breathed. "The blind queen." Another corrected, though there was no scorn in the words, only wonder. "Not blind." A third whispered back, "She sees everything." Tears burned behind my eyes. My wolf lifted her head in quiet triumph, and I stood taller beneath the weight of the crown. I remembered the forest, the fear, the claws closing in, the lone wolf who had saved me. I remembered the cruelty of noble Omegas, the council's demands for my death, the poison in my chalice, the chance for my blood. I remembered how small I had once felt, a blind girl surviving on scraps of dignity. And I remembered his words, "Your blindness is not a curse. It is what makes you stronger." They all dreamed of being queen. They painted their faces, sharpened their claws, and clawed at each other for the throne. But it was not they who wore the crown. It was me, the blind Omega, saved in the forest by a wolf I had not known was my mate. The servant cast aside, who rose not for beauty or bloodline, but for the bond that remade a kingdom. As the hall erupted in howls of allegiance, as the crown pressed warm against my brow, I understood the truth that had carried me from shadow to throne. I was not broken. I was both shadow and light, and I was their queen, forever.